on the ground. Residential property market update. I want to share with you a couple of things, because I don't know why, but I don't know if you've noticed, but there is so much bad press, bad publicity about investing in property in South Africa. It almost seems, and when I say almost seems, I really think it is, there are vested interests in many of the broadcasting channels for you not to invest in property, and for you to put your money in some of those atrocious financial investment products that are being sold by the likes of, well, you know what, I don't want to use names, otherwise they're going to sue me. But as you can see here, we are an independent provider of property investing, education, and solutions. We are not sponsored by organizations that I have to punt, as part of these workshops to, for them. We are, the Property Coach and the Property Hacked Club sustain itself as a profitable for-profit organization through education that is independent, that is local, that is practical. So if you're wondering, why am I doing this one? I'm not doing it as an NGO. It is a for-profit business with no sponsors. So you're getting all these call it bad publicity. But what is really, really happening? Well, what is really happening here is that I put a picture of King Charles, not just because my name is Carlo, but because, I always like to refer to that, the king is dead, long live the king. Because in the last 24 years since I have been in South Africa full time, so many times they've declared the residential property market dead and buried. So many times you hear all these people saying it's the worst investment, when in actual fact, what is absolutely, the facts, and I'm sharing data from one of our great partners. It's a partner, it's not a sponsor, it's a partner, Lightstone from Lightstone Property, and they track, all the transfers taking place in the deeds offices across South Africa. And, in August, over the last 12 months, on average, property prices have increased by 4.3%, which is absolutely amazing if you think the fact that everybody said that the market was going to crash as a result of the fastest and one of the steepest increases in interest rates in the history of democratic South Africa. So why that has not been the case? Well, we'll discuss it, in a few times. I also thought that was great to see, more of a long-term view. And, if you look at properties values in 2010, the wonderful year of the vuvuzelas, look at, Cape Town has gone up by 147%, Johannesburg by 71%, KZN at 3.6%. That doesn't necessarily mean that Cape Town is a better investment than Johannesburg or the other way around. There's a lot more complications to it. We're not going to discuss it today. These are just facts. Bea is saying, well, the inflation in August sitting at 0.8%, but business is still happening. As a estate agent, I'm blessed that I'm still closing deal. So well done, Bea. That's proof that, yes, the market might be slowing down, but it's still active, because interest rates is part of a short-term cycle. I want to write it down. If you got that pen and paper and you haven't used that pen and paper, you must not confuse short-term noise with long-term trends, i.e. interest rates is part of a short-term cycle, but the laws of supply and demand, which I've shared in the past, I will continue to share in the future, not today, are so supportive of the residential property market in South Africa, the king is dead, long live the king. Not only that, but there are two sides to the coin called the residential property market. So whenever you analyze and try to understand the property market, please don't just look at price growth, also look at rental growth. And after 2 years where the rental market has been suffering a little bit, somewhat, now what's happening is that rental growth is happening again, and is happening at the rate of 4.4%. That's from the PayProp rental index. And that basically means that now, rentals are going up in line with inflation. It's the strongest year-on-year growth since 2017. So that's another point. Boko, Joburg CBD, would you advise to invest in those units that cost 150K, especially now with everything going on in the CBD? Again, nothing is different from what is happening in the CBD. It's just the press now realize that they can sell newspapers or they can sell clicks writing stories about CBD. What I can tell you is that, as part of the knowledge portal that is inside the PropertyHack.club for the members of the club, there is an incredible video course, about a 1-hour video course, which is called Hackers and Hijackers in Johannesburg CBD, which will give you an answer to your question, because I cannot tell you yes or no. I can only tell you it depends. And then, inside that course, it will give you step-by-step actions you can take to make sure that you are buying the right properties and not the wrong properties. And also, it's not just about rental, but it's also about vacancies, because I know that one of the biggest fears of many aspiring property investors is, oh my gosh, what is going to happen if my property is empty? And on average, and Mark Twain famously said, lies, big lies, and averages. So it's an average, which means it's a big lie. The vacancies are currently sitting at 7.3%, which is below the long-term average of 8%. My portfolio is running at about 3% vacancies, because we have techniques, strategies that I will teach you where you should never run at 8% vacancies. But, the average property investor in South Africa is doing it in a very haphazard, unprofessional way. And as a result of that, they've got much, much higher vacancies. Katlego, your plan is to specialize in apartment buildings. This is where great wealth can be generated in the residential market. That's one of the areas where great wealth can be generated. What I do like a lot about your comment, Katlego, is that you use the word specialize. And that is really one of the key things. But, you've gone through this sort of snapshot, but very to the point update on the situation of the rental market. Now, you should be asking yourself, you should be asking me, so what? So what does that mean? Do I buy? Do I sell? Do I stay? Do I do? Well, first of all, let's start with bad property advice. Bad property advice that you are getting right, left, and center by those that pretend to be property educators, but all they are is glorified sales agents. And there is nothing wrong with sales agents. They perform a very important role. But what I don't like is when it becomes, you saying all the great things about property so I can sell you a property. No, this is bad property advice. Don't wait to buy property and wait, because you might end up like being one of those go-go's there in the picture that you're going to watch paint dry. Just buying any property anywhere at any price can actually slow down and can be a bad investment. Anybody that says buy any property is always going to be a great investment, they're either liars or they never invested in property. That's my, I'm going to call it jack to jack, spade to spade. You like it, you don't like it, that's fine. You can switch off this workshop anytime. But what I really focus and what I help, growing and aspiring property investors in South Africa doing is buying the right property at the right price in the right area with the right funding. So that is your focus, and that's what is going to make you really wealthy, as opposed to